Are you being bold in your life? Today, that's what we're going to be talking about. So I'm super excited to be chatting with Tracie Root. Tracie said goodbye to corporate life and found the world of coaching after a personal family tragedy. Tracie guides emerging entrepreneurial women who are ready to shift toward their next exciting chapter in business by creating a structured, sustainable, and successful business with excellent vision, skill, and decisive, bold action. So I'm super excited to talk about that. Welcome, Tracie.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here, Cora, after connecting with you, gosh, a year and a half ago or so now. It's wonderful to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I'm excited to hear your story. I know a lot of women are not being bold in their lives, and it's so easy to hang back and not to do the bold thing. So I'm excited to talk about that and maybe get a little bit of your history, how you got to where you are
Sure.
and where you came from, because I know there's going to be a lot of people out there that are wanting to try something new, not sure if they should. How can I do that? And it's nice to hear other people's stories and find out
Yeah,
how they went from, what was corporate? What was that like for you?
right. You know, Thank you for the opportunity because what I find when I start to share my story is, each of us has things that are unique to our own lives. Like there's a piece of my story that not a lot of people have gone through. But at the same time, there's so much more. I'd say, 98% of my story is not atypical of most women who have been in corporate America or who have had jobs that they thought were probably going to be what they did for their life. I grew up in near Silicon Valley, California, San Jose area. And a big part of growing up in that area is a lot of high achievers, right? Being in the center of the creation of the computer, there are a lot of focus on make sure you do well in school, be successful and figure out what success means. And success, of course, should mean having a great job, making a good amount of money, all those things. So that's how I was raised. Get good grades, go to college. I graduated with honors. I, got that job coming straight out of college, and I was in with the same company doing project management at high tech companies for 17 years.
Mhm.
It was exactly what I thought my life was supposed to look like.
Mhm.
At the same time, I learned very early on that if I wanted to be perceived as successful and professional and knowledgeable about my work, that there was kind of a performance that I needed to put on at work that was different than how I was naturally as a person. I
Yeah.
tended to be naturally, I was a former dancer. I love being on stage and performing in front of thousands of people. And so to go to corporate and work a job each day, I really felt like I was being the professional version of Tracie at work every day. And over the years, that became less of a show and more of just how I acted. And the performing, exuberant, a little bit extra side of me kind of faded to the background, especially when I had clients, usually men, comment on when my real self might have shown up a little bit more than they were expecting. Tracie, you need to be quiet, you need to chill out, you need to be such and such and such in front of my boss, in front of the client, in front of whatever. So 17 years in corporate, I was very good at what I did. I got paid a lot of money, living in Silicon Valley. But I towards the end of that, I lost my husband to cancer. We'd been together for, gosh, 13 years, 15 years, something like that already, not married that long, but together for a very long time. And had two small children. The kids were 1.5 and 4 when he passed away. And after going through that first year and a half of grief, I started to come out the other side thinking to myself, life is pretty boring. It's the same thing every day. It's survival mode. And, I would get up in the morning, get the kids to daycare, go work my job, pick them up, feed them dinner, get them to bed. And that was it every day, day in and day out. And so when I realized that I had to do it all by myself for the foreseeable future, I realized that I needed to gain a little more energy. I needed to get out of survival mode, and I needed to kind of get back to who I was so that I could find some joy in life again.
Yeah.
So I started on a journey with a coach, and that coach helped me to find ways to take care of myself again, to pay attention to the things that lifted me up and didn't. And within about 6 months, I had lost 55 pounds, and I had found personal development, and I was moving down the road of deciding what I wanted the rest of my life to look like. Because last thing I wanted was for my kids to go to daycare in the morning and pick them up at the end of the day for the next 18 years.
Yeah.
So finding coaching in that time was the biggest transformation that a person could ever have, because I found the way to design the life that I wanted to have, as opposed to kind of just allowing it to unfold. And I think that's one of the boldest things we can do, is to make a decision that turns our life in a 90-degree angle. We go a totally different direction without knowing how that's going to turn out. And so I really like to help women to recognize that they can make those choices,
Mhm.
and that even though they've never done it before, if it's, if they know what they want out of their life, then they can decide to make those bold choices to change where they're going so they can go somewhere else.
Yeah. And it's difficult. I mean, I can't imagine going through what you went through, especially when you have young kids, losing your partner, your spouse, whatever like that. Um, it's that grief is a huge um,
It is.
process you have to go through first. Like, do you find that, you needed to be at the
Right.
right time before you got into the coaching
Well,
help?
and that's totally true. But that's the like 5% that I mean that is different from other people, right?
Yes.
A lot of people
Yes.
don't lose their husband when they're
Yeah.
42 years old,
Yeah.
but a lot of people have things that they go through.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the rest of the story is really common,
Hmm.
right? Grow up, go to college, get the job, perform, be the dancing monkey at work so that you can be
Yeah.
successful, and get to the point where you realize that you want something different,
Yeah.
regardless of kind of whether there's a giant tragedy that wakes you up to that, or if it's just one day you wake up and say,
Yep.
you know what, I'm tired of commuting,
Yeah.
or I don't have any hobbies anymore, and I don't have any time, and I'm so exhausted, and all I do is, as a mom, all I do is cook and clean and go to
Yeah.
work,
I know. Groundhog Day.
right? Every day, day after day. So it's important to just notice if you have a thought of a different way you want your life to be. Like, don't ignore that. That's the dreams that are put in us from wherever. Like, they're there for a reason, not to be ignored, but to be noticed. And then we can start to notice more and start to notice more, and then maybe start taking steps in that direction.
Yeah. And taking the time, which is sometimes hard to do when your kids are young and you're raising kids, but to take a few minutes to even remember how to dream. Because, like you say, when you're going through that groundhog grind of day in, day out, when you're raising kids, it feels like that's all you do is that same thing over and
Right.
over.
Well, and that's the reason why my husband passing away is such a big part of the story, is because he was the dreamer and I was the doer,
Mm.
right? He was all over the place, million dreams, million jobs in the arts, all that kind of stuff. And I was the corporate, I was the breadwinner. I was the college graduate, the this, the that, all of the structure in our family came from me, and all of the imagination came from him. And so when he was gone, it took a little while, but I did finally realize, I don't have a plan for what's next. What do I want?
Yeah.
And what I wanted was to be closer to my family. That was really the impetus, because I was in California. I had one aunt kind of somewhat nearby, but we didn't see each other a lot and really have a close relationship that way. But my parents and my sister were in Florida.
Mm.
So, what do I want? Well, I want my kids to grow up with some structure of extended family other than only me. And
Yeah.
so being by my parents, being by my sister and her son, being by my first husband's family who were in Louisiana, which, while it's not next door, was a car drive away. For us Californians, if it's within
Yeah.
12 hours, it's a car drive away. So,
Yeah.
so, by moving to Florida and having that be a goal, that really got me thinking, okay, when I move to Florida, what will I do? What job will I do? Where will I work? Will I work for myself or for someone else? Will I do this job or something different? And then when I found coaching, that was the answer. And within 6 months of starting coaching, that was in April of 2012. Within 6 months, I was gone. I, had decided actually to go. And then that December, we moved to Florida. We moved back quickly because I got engaged and got
Oh.
remarried within the next 8 months. But but it's a big piece of that story of, just sitting down and going, well, what do it, I didn't want to sit at that desk for the next 20 years and have my kids' lives flash by and me still sitting there at that same desk. I knew that I was made for something different so that I could be the parent that I wanted to be and that I could enjoy life again, which, it was finally time to realize that that was possible.
Yeah, that's so awesome
Yeah,
because
thanks.
a lot of people don't realize, that's the type of thing that you can get by working with a coach.
Yeah,
You don't realize that you're not taking the time to really figure out what do you want.
yeah.
And I think
I think
especially
that,
after the last few years, people are really thinking that
well,
more
that's
so.
for sure true. That's one of the things that I talk about a lot with, you don't have a grief, you might not have a grief story, or you might not have a spousal grief story, but you might have a friendship that's been lost, or a divorce, or, a job or whatever. But the idea of what you thought your life was going to be like changing
Mhm.
is something that now every single person on the planet has in common. We didn't think our life was going to include a global pandemic, and there it was. So now we all have that in common, and we can talk about the fact that, what else do we not know how it's going to turn out, but maybe we start looking at it anyway.
Yeah.
And I was thinking before we started, like, oh, I'm going on Cora's podcast. What are we going to talk about? And I was thinking about the idea of that unmet expectation, but also the idea of, what is coaching even given me, right? I was thinking, well, maybe we'll go in that direction. And my thought was that I have learned to ask good questions
Mm-hmm.
and to listen and to ask the next question, right? So like when people don't know how to dream, but you're asked the question, well, what is it that you want? They're like, I don't know, like, I
Yeah.
can't even think of it. But as a coach, we're now trained to hopefully pull some of that out of someone where they haven't taken the time for themselves to do that.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes it's going back and like, what did you want to do when you were little? What did you
Right,
play? Like, go
right.
think all the way back there, right?
Yep. Yeah. Thinking about like the whole inner child thing and doing things for fun. For a lot of us adults, I mean, this is something that I still work on a lot, the idea of
Mhm.
just relaxing
Yeah.
and like not like, okay, if I'm not working, what am I doing?
Mhm.
Right? And especially entrepreneurs
Yeah.
and moms, right? If I'm not doing something related to this job, whether it's my business or my family, what am I doing? If I'm laying around, what am I doing? Like there's time wasted. And to learn about like rest is not wasted time. And do you want to have a hobby? A couple of years ago, pre-pandemic, I can't even remember now if it was before or after, but I decided it must have been before. I decided I wanted to learn how to play violin. I've
Mm.
played piano starting in 3rd grade, other instruments through my whole childhood, high school into college. And but I never tried a string instrument.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to. So I happened to talk about it a couple of times over the course of a couple of years, and my husband bought me a violin for Christmas one year.
Oh.
And I immediately pulled it out, kind of tried to tighten the strings and broke one.
Yeah.
like that morning. And so a little while later, I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to find a teacher. And I signed up for a pack of 12 classes. And what's funny is it's really hard.
I know.
Do you know?
My
Yeah. So
niece
it's
is a professional violin player.
really,
Yeah.
wow. Well, it is a really challenging instrument, especially if you play wind instruments, to figure out, like, it's hard. And so I bought a pack of 12 lessons with a teacher who lives somewhat near me, so we could do Zoom or in person. And I actually went through 11 classes. And it's funny to me thinking back because, going in that 11th class, I think I was a little disappointed at how little progress I
Yeah.
had made. And I was tired kind of, and I wasn't practicing. And after that 11th class, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a break. So I'm going to come back for that 12th class in a little while, and then we'll see where the future holds. But I never went
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was really hard, but I'm so grateful that I did it, and I have
Yeah.
my violin, and someday who knows what the future holds, but it's having that idea of what can I do that's different that I would enjoy,
Yeah. And
and
trying things.
trying it. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
If we don't try things, we're never going to know. So, it's never too late to try and see what you think,
Right.
because you don't know.
But there's a lot of people who would say, well, I can't,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's too late for me. I'm too old. It's too
Mhm.
whatever, and
Oh,
no,
yeah.
you absolutely can.
Yeah. I mean, you see pictures on Facebook all the time of, women that have started things 60s, 70s years old. Like it
Absolutely.
is never too late. It's all, in your mindset. If you
Yep.
want to try it, you can do it.
Absolutely.
You want to. Now, I love your whole concept of being bold. Where did that
Yeah.
come from?
Well, that actually came out of a work seminar that I went to, a business seminar, about 5 years ago. I signed up for this course that was about working on your speaking skills. And this was with my coach, Katerina Rando. And it was on a cruise ship, which is the best kind. And so we're on the ship, and we're practicing our speeches. We're practicing some story development and delivery. We're practicing how to do offers, working a little bit on, the structure of our business as well, but mostly about speaking. And at the end of the cruise, the last day, we all had our kind of, oh, I'm excited. I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to launch this, and here's my big to-do list. And that was great. But she said, okay, I want to know how you're going to be different when you get off the ship. Not what you're going to do. I know you have your lists of things to do, but here's a sticker and here's a Sharpie. And I want you to write a word that represents how you're going to be different when you leave the ship. And with little hesitation, I wrote bold in all capital letters, took up all the space, and stuck it to my chest. And everyone was really surprised, actually, because I mean, you can't tell on Zoom, but I'm 6 feet tall. And at the time I had full purple hair. And they all looked at me and like, what do you mean you want to be bold? Like, look at you and look what you've done, right? I've been in front of the room all week and have no shortage of desire to be the center of attention. But I said, I can really, we already talked about this. I can put on that show anytime. I can perform, and I can look bold, and I can act bold. But what I needed was that kind of internal embodiment of being bold.
Yeah.
And not just acting it, but actually living it in my truth.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of it. And really, it was probably a couple of years later when I decided to incorporate it into how I work with clients, because I love a good acronym. Bold is only 4 letters, so it works really nice. And so I started teaching goal setting and goal getting around an acronym using the word bold. And so bold, I'll give you the quickie. Bold stands for build your vision. So like have that dream, but also set goals that are in that direction and have a structure of how to get there, right? That's a big thing that many people don't take the time to actually create. They might think it, but they're not documenting it and tracking it and doing all of the structure behind actually accomplishing their goals. So that's a big one. O stands for open yourself up to discomfort, which really is the best letter. because everything we do, especially as entrepreneurs, is a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Especially if we're talking about selling or doing things that we've never done before, teaching in ways we've never done before, speaking in ways we've never done before, speaking at all for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So being open to discomfort gives you the ability to recognize that every day, if you do something that you've never done before, you're going to be moving forward in some way, whether it's just a growth edge or actual progress towards those goals. And then L stands for leverage your learning, which, when I teach this in a workshop setting, it's kind of the setup to what's coming next, because you need to not just go to classes and listen to podcasts, and not that we don't do, right? But you need to leverage the things that you're learning into D, which is do with bold action.
Right.
Because again, without action, nothing actually is going to
I
happen.
And lots of us have taken lots of courses and not done any
And not
action.
leveraged what we've learned and taken the action. Absolutely. So it's a really nice kind of all around set of kind of philosophy framework to say, like, dream big, set goals toward those dreams so that you're going in that direction. Because what's the point of having a dream if you're not going after it?
Yep.
And take the things that you learn every day, whether you're learning them in a class or you're learning them by doing, and learn from them and do it again and keep going and keep going and keep going.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. So that's bold.
Love it. I love it. So just as we're wrapping up with the last few minutes here, I'm thinking you have something you wanted to offer for our listeners today.
So one of the things we didn't talk about is that I'm the founder of something called the Gather Community. We are a community of entrepreneurial women, whether they are in business or a fan of personal and professional development. And so we host lots of opportunities to connect. We have speaker summits. Our members are often coaches and teachers and educators. So they're holding workshops and doing all kinds of things. We have people who are business coaches, they coach on negotiation, with people who in the wellness field, all kinds of different folks. And so when I talk about the Gather community, I always really want to make sure that everyone knows that they're invited to come join us, come check out what we have going on. So I have the link that I have for you to put in the notes is just my website /links, tracieroot.com/links. And there you'll find ways to connect with the Gather community, find out everything we have going on, come join us on Facebook. But the main thing for me and everything we've really been talking about today about being bold is the ways that I'm teaching as a coach. I often do free workshops that may move someone into a short paid group program, things like that. And so all of those are always listed on my links page as well. In fact, probably if this is going out in early May, like 1st of May-ish, the first thing that's coming up is actually on Friday, May 5th, which is our Gather Community Speaker Spring Showcase, which is a showcase of all of our members, full day speaker summit with the VIP night the night before. So if you're listening to this right when it comes out and it really is the beginning of May, that might still be coming. Please feel free to say, hey, I heard you on Cora's podcast, and I want to take you up on your offer to come as my guest. So if you're listening to this and you see that, I'd be happy to have you come on, at no cost.
Awesome.
Because my goal for all of it is to help women find their path to their next, fulfillment, right? If it's working with me, great. If it's learning something from my fabulous people in the Gather community, great. If it's because you heard one of us, but you just want to say hello and you tell me you want something, I'm going to connect you because I'm a natural connector. So anything that we can do to support you in your growth and moving forward in your life toward your goals and dreams, we're here for. So you can come check us out.
Great. Thanks so much, Tracie. It's been awesome having you on the show today. So listeners, if you are wanting to know more about Tracie, what she does with her bold programs or her Gather community, be sure and check out the link in the show notes and, take her up on that offer. Find out what her Gather community is all about. It's a really great bunch of ladies. I know a lot of the ladies that are in there. And just keep in mind, no matter who you are, where you are, we were talking about dreams today. So just remember, it's never too late to dream your dreams.
Yep.